Hi, welcome to Let's Get Metaphysical and our first show of the 1990s. Today we are very delighted and privileged to have with us the best-selling author of Love Signs, Sun Signs, Star Signs, and now Goobers. Welcome, Linda Goodman.
Thank you, Patti.
Linda, I understand that you're now touring to talk about your new book, Goobers, which I have right here, and I'll hold it up so people can see. It's a big book. It must have taken you a long time to write it, except I think you said 3 months. 3 months that it took you. But what I wanted to mention is that you're going to Los Angeles and New York and Cincinnati on this tour. Why Cincinnati? I'm happy.
Well, because I had, as you'll see in the inside cover, where my biography and my photo in the back inside cover, the bottom line, it mentions Steve Bolia and Rob Dorgan. They're my two druids. They're not little. My two druids I found in the woods, who helped me with the galleys, which was a nightmare. 4 sets of galleys, and to try to make sure that most of the typos were gone, and they worked very hard. And so after that, they decided, they live in Cincinnati, Rob Dorgan and Steve Bolia, so they decided to do a promotion in Cincinnati.
Oh, I'm so glad they did. I'm glad to have you here.
I'm happy to be here. It was all their idea.
In looking through Goobers, I've noticed that it's much different than your earlier books, the subject matter and also your style of writing. Could you comment on that a little bit?
Well, it is a unique format. As it says in the front of the inside cover, David Sykes, it's a marriage of prose and poetry. It's a marriage of the 2 art forms. And after the 10th page, I believe he says here, you might want to read that. Well, why don't you just read the first 2 paragraphs to the audience,
Okay.
because I think that explains the unique format.
Well, it says, for too many years we've missed the pleasure we once felt for rhyming and writing. The writers of prose seem to have forgotten how to stir the mind through poetic expression, and the poets have forgotten how to tell a story. Now Linda Goodman has broken new ground through a blending of these 2 art forms. I've always hated poetry, but the marriage of prose and poetry in Goobers is so smooth that by the end of the first few pages, I didn't care what it was called. I only knew that the words were taking me on a familiar trip back into myself.
Right, well, if people, after the 10th page, they don't know what they're reading. We call it rhythm writing. It's never been done before, ever. And it's the layout on the page where your eyes photograph the page and it makes for a fast read. And that's how it came out. It was channeled automatic writing. I didn't plan it that way. It came out of the typewriter that way. And I tried putting it in block paragraph form, and it didn't work. Just didn't work. I tried the first few pages, and it's strange because I've had a couple of fan letters or reader, well, I've only, let's see, about the past week, I've started receiving my fan mail or reader mail about Goobers. And one woman wrote a 2-page letter in the exact format of Goobers. It rhymes, everything, blank verse, And she said she couldn't write any other way. Something happened to her and she couldn't write a regular letter. But you'll find it's a very fast read, and it isn't poetry at all. It's rhythm writing, because as David said, the poets have forgotten how to tell a story, and the prose writers have forgotten how to write in rhythm. And after you've read Goobers, you go back to a regular book, a block paragraph. It's really awkward. You feel like you're at a ping pong game. Your eyes go back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. Whereas with Goobers, you kind of photograph the page at one look because of the way it's laid out. Very strange format.
I felt that so many of my senses became involved because it's like an art form, so I'm looking instead, like you say, just at the line after line, but also my eyes are dancing around the page, so there's a dance.
Dancing around the page,
there's
that's
a feeling
a good
of music.
expression, yeah. Music.
There's a feeling
well,
of
music
song,
has rhythm also. And writing has rhythm, words have rhythm, whether they're visual or whether they're audio. Like I used to write television commercials and radio commercials. I was the, well, let's see, in New York and Pittsburgh, I did all that work, and there's a difference when you're writing for it. The announcers knew that they have to read cold. When you're writing for the ear or you're writing for the eye. When you write commercials for announcers to read cold, meaning they haven't read it before, it's a whole different rhythm than writing for the eye to write for the ear, because the announcers have to have rhythm when they read a commercial or they stumble. Well, you should
like
if they're
talking.
reading it cold, right? So you learn kind of like that. But I love that expression because it is dancing and music. It really is. It's a strange format. And one person who's reading it now called me and said that she had to read it out loud. She wasn't able to read it like a book. She has to read it out loud. It compels her to read it out loud. The publisher read it out loud to himself on his back porch. He couldn't read it. He had to recite it. It was kind of strange.
You mentioned channeled. There's so many different terms, definitions of channeling, and people that are channeling. And this seems kind of like partly your story, and as you say, partly anyone else's story. Can you explain your definition of channeling and your opinion of channeling?
Well, I don't know which question to answer, but
All of them.
you said partly your
Sorry.
story and partly someone else's. I think that I can give you an example of the format of Goober's, as unique as it is, by reciting, I think I can memorize it, one of the pages in the front of the book, which answers the question of whether this is fiction or nonfiction, whether it's a novel or whether it's an autobiography. And it also shows you the style. Let me see if I can remember it.
I've got it open. If you like,
I'll keep
I
it
really
here.
love
I'll
to
show you
hear
what
you
a
read it
wonderful
because it's your
photographic
voice
memory I have.
Your writing.
For those curious reviewers and readers who will inevitably question whether or not this work is autobiographical, the answer is partly yes and partly no. Good for Libra. The events themselves, I found this tale told itself more smoothly by using the first-person narrative form. The events themselves did actually occur and are as real as the paper of the page you now hold in your hands. But to whom did they occur? It shouldn't matter about whom the truth is written, as long as what is written is truth. So never mind who. This book may or may not have been written about me, but it very well may have been written about you. I have properly defined it as fiction because the dictionary defines fiction as an invention of the imagination. Of course, isn't life, isn't love, isn't death, isn't everything on earth in reality an invention of the imagination? It is. And that simple, unguessed mystery of magic is what this book is really all about. The secret of all magic and wonder each of you once knew yourselves when you were gods and goddesses possessing great powers you have too long forgotten. That answers your question.
Yes. Brings up more, too.
Kind of a Libra answer, right? Well, channeled automatic writing is like having daily amnesia. I always believed in it, but I never could do it. When I try, you sit down with pen and paper, nothing happens, and I just sit there and think, I wonder if these people are making it up, that the pen just moves. You know, it never occurred to me that automatic writing, so-called, can be done at the typewriter until it started happening without my attempting anything. In other words, it's like having daily amnesia. It was quite frightening. I used to cry a lot over it because at the end of the day, I'd look at the pages and I had absolutely no recollection whatsoever of putting the words together. And that can be very frightening. I tell you, amnesia is a scary thing. There were these pages, it would be like someone handed them to me, someone else wrote them. I might remember a couple of lines or one paragraph, recall forming it, typing it, but the rest of it was just like I read it for the first time. It can be very disturbing, so it was channeled from my higher self for some purpose. And I guess I know the purpose because everyone who's read the manuscript, college kids, men, husbands, wives, they've had a miracle in their lives within a few days after reading it. So it has some chameleon quality, which is hard to explain, or after page 5 or 10 or 20, each person who reads it locks in and it becomes their story, not my story, but their story, even the men. Although it's written from a woman's point of view, it somehow, they'll say, oh my God, I remember that. I did so-and-so. I was it. They'll say, did you have a tape recorder in our bedroom to record our arguments, you know, that kind of thing. And I don't know what it is, but I've never had anyone read it yet who didn't get somewhere into the book. They lock in, and from that point on, it becomes their story, their personal. One college kid said, a guy in college, I forget, it was Kent State, and he said, "You know what Goobers is?" And I said, "What?" And he said, "It's everyone's personal biography," which is kind of strange, right? So it is a strange book as well as a heavy book. Okay.
Do you think, since you were channeling then from your higher self, that people, as they read it, kind of also bring in their higher self?
Yeah, they
more
tune
directly?
in. That's right.
Without realizing it.
That's
even,
right.
And they're
They
finding
lock in. It's a very strange experience. I mean, Rob Dorgan, well, Steve had a strange experience. He was reading something, Steve Bolia, when we were doing galleys, and he locked in something about his grandfather. There was a name in there, and then there was a funeral, and he locked right into it from that point on. And then Rob was taught by a nun, a sister, in Catholic school, and he locked right into it because her name was there and the date of her death was there. You know, what is this? And he went back and saw her vividly, more vividly than he has ever since she died. And people do that. There's always something there they lock into. From that point on, their own memories begin to stir, and it's their book, it's their story. Quite very strange, really is. Very strange.
I know you recommend people reading it from cover to cover, that it's not the type of book to open up and just read
No, it's
anywhere.
not like my other books where you can read any chapter.
It's not a reference
You know, just
book.
pick a chapter and you're learning something about that thing. No, it has a beginning and an end. It's like reading Gone with the Wind or A Tree Grows in Brooklyn or any, you know, any novel which has, you wouldn't want to start Gone with the Wind when Brett carried Scarlett up the stairs. You wonder why he was carrying her up the steps, right? No, you know, it can't be read that way because it's consecutive, and the whatever wisdom is there and enlightenment is step by step by step, and it would just throw it off if you dive in the middle of it. But later, after you've read it, you want to go back and read it again. You can skip around. Everybody does. They always read it again because there are clues and hints in the first portion of the book that later on when things happen, you'll say, "Oh yeah, that's what happened when the writer was 10 years old." That sort of thing. It has flashback and deja vu, and it can't be read that way any more than any other novel could be read that way. You know, it's not a how-to-do-it book like my past books. It has to be read straight through. Okay.
Okay. You, when you were reading that, you brought up the thought in my mind, I don't know what you said, but dreams came to my thought, and something, I think it was more in star signs. You talked about dreams being a reality and reality a dream, and that triggered that. I thought that was an
Dreams
interesting...
are the true reality, yes. How do you know that your dream was not reality and this is the dream?
True. I think there was like an Oriental person, I can't remember, who said he dreamed that he was a butterfly, but when he woke up, he thought that when the dream seemed very real, so is he now a butterfly dreaming he's a man?
Oh,
So
that's a good way of putting it, exactly. What I always say, that when you wake up in the morning and you're dreaming, you know how the dream fades, no matter how hard you try to hang on to it, it fades away, you know, into the sounds of the day. And the same thing happens when you go to sleep. The television, the traffic outside, no matter how hard you try, you drift away and it fades and you enter the other world. So it's just the same, you only reverse. What he said is a very good way of putting it. Whether he's a man dreaming of a butterfly or a butterfly dreaming as a man is excellent. But that is what happens. You fade out from the sounds around you at night when you fall asleep, and you can't hang on to them no matter how hard you try. And you enter the other world. And then when you wake up in the morning, no matter how hard you try to hang on to that dream, that reality, it fades and you're into this world. It's exactly the same process reversed. Now, how do you know that dreams are the true reality? Because in dreams, if you want to go to New York, image it and you're there. Here you have to walk, get on the plane, fasten the seatbelt, you know what I mean? It's clumsy and awkward. Because in dreams, you are in your astral body, which can be anywhere at any time, and all you have to do is think of a place and you're there. So the astral body has more fluidity, obviously, can move around and be what it wants, whereas this heavy flesh, you know, cement thing that we're kind of bogged down into is very, very awkward. So obviously, the true reality is when we are in our astral bodies and out of this body, out of this flesh temple, and free, you know,
Do
to
you travel in
anything.
your sleep a lot?
Oh, everyone does. Everyone
Consciously,
does.
I guess I should say.
Everyone does. The trick is to come back with vivid conscious memory. It's hard to do because when you return from your sleep, so-called dreams, the brain has kind of a scrambling device like the president's telephone, you know, and the memory of where you were and what you did goes through the scrambling device and comes out kind of vague. Do you know what I mean? Like
Oh, I know what
a
you
dream.
mean.
But when you can bring back vivid recall from where you were while you sleep, which you can do if you practice, then it's a different thing. But you can't do it too much or you really get confused which world you're in, you know. I mean, you can't overdo it like everything else. Libra balance. Everything needs Libra balance.
Good, I'm a Libra. See if I can balance.
Yes.
Except it seems like mostly to me it's more coming in with the scrambler when it comes to my ears or out of my mouth, like Mercury retrograde too often. I have so many questions
Oh, it's direct
here.
now, thank goodness.
What I wanted to ask you also is you spoke about sound always existing, and that really fascinated me. I kind of saw Earth as a three-dimensional record with sound being recorded continuously on bands outward. Was that the picture?
Excellent image, that's true. Everything, every word ever spoken, Lincoln's Gettysburg Address, what we're saying now, goes out into the ethers higher and higher and higher levels, you know, vibrating like when you throw a pebble in a stream. And, well, you know, dogs can hear whistles that are pitched so high human ears cannot hear the sound, but a dog can hear it. So it goes out and it's there. The trick is to bring it in. And there was a book called Breakthrough by Taplinger, published by Taplinger. I think it's definitely out of print now. It was about scientists at Harvard and Yale and Cornell who have already done this. They have recorded voices from the past or out in the ethers on blank tape. But the thing is, they can't be discriminating. You know what I mean? They don't know what they're getting. They can't get, you know, you talking to your mother as a child. They can't get Lincoln doing the Gettysburg Address because they can't discriminate and bring in what they want. But they heard voices in Russian and people talking about all different things that came right out of the ethers onto the tape. But to be selective takes a lot more knowledge and practice and investigative techniques of magnetism. To be selective in pulling a voice out is not easy.
When I was a child, I wasn't even old enough to read at this time. I think I was like maybe 3, 4, 5. And I remember before I fell asleep, I heard Oriental voices. And I had the vision that they were, you know, I guess a child view, that they were on the other side of the world, and if I dug far enough down, I'd get through. That
Right.
must have been
Go
a
to
picture in one of
China.
my books. But I remember hearing them, and I couldn't understand what they were saying. I didn't know the language, but it was Oriental people. I saw them in my mind with the slanted hats, and it kind of sticks with me, like
That's
I
wonderful.
tuned into
You were
a
very,
voice.
very wide open as a child, obviously. That's a lovely experience because I'm sure it's a true one.
Well, I'd forgotten it
Then as
until
you
I
get
read
older,
your
you
book.
lose that because the third eye closes.
We're taught to teach it to close it too.
And parents say, oh, now, nonsense, you didn't hear that, you didn't see that, Uncle John's dead, he couldn't have talked to you last night, you know. And they start telling you that you're silly and you shouldn't do this and you shouldn't do that. And pretty soon the third eye literally, medically closes, becomes hard instead of soft and malleable, and that's the pineal gland. And then, you know, you tell them you're playing with your little playmate in the yard out by the corn stalks, and her name is Emily, and she comes and plays with you every day, and then the grown-ups say, now don't lie like that. There's no child out there named Emily. Why'd you want to lie like that? And pretty soon it goes away, you know. But you have to open the third. Well, my gurus have told me that Goobers is designed to open the third eye of the reader. There are lots of ways to open the third eye. Some of the Tibetan monks used to commit surgery on the pineal gland to open the third eye. And many well-known psychics like Jean Dixon, Peter Hurkos, had a blow sharp on it, you know, like this to open the third eye. And it does activate the third eye and it becomes soft again. But one can't go around with a club, you know, hitting their friends in the forehead, so I'm going to open your third eye.
You know, which you just made me think of. Is
But now Goobers will open the third eye. Everyone who's ever read it, it's open, at least the first part of it. Not at least. The first part takes you back to your own childhood. And that definitely opens the third eye, so that you can comprehend the rest of the book. And my gurus have told me that is the purpose of the book, to open people's third eyes, which is great. So I don't have to get a club and hit them. You know.
What I keep thinking about is my 15-month-old son who goes around pounding his third eye into everything. So maybe it's good instead of bad.
Maybe he'll keep it open. Well, then also in the back, in the inside cover, which I hope in the next printing, this will be in the book where it belongs, but in the inside cover is a full-color print of the head of Minerva, showing the pineal gland, the third eye, and how the aura comes and what causes the kundalini to be released, and how the third eye opens. There are instructions in the book, and you have to look back, unfortunately, to this colored picture to follow the instructions, because they didn't print it in the book like they should have, but they will. The second printing, I have so ordained, the second printing. But anyway, it's quite interesting to look at the colors in that head of Minerva and study how the third eye opens, what the process is, you know.
I just read an article, I think it was yesterday, it was last month's Omni magazine, where they were talking, it was talking about astrology, but they were talking about that God put 6 angels in different places on the earth, 6 points, like power points. And what that's leading into is you talk about electromagnetic or magnetic fields. And I find that's one of my favorite subjects because I read palms. And I've noticed in this area, this is Mercury, and in this area, there's skin ridge patterns on each person that's different. And some people have a certain pattern, like it waves through here. And when I talk to them about it, they tell me they're more sensitive to like static electricity. Like other people around them won't get shocked getting up off the same seat, but they will. Mm-hmm. Or they see UFOs more than others. Or their watches run too fast or too slow. They can screw up computers, TV screens, and even car batteries. They can cause their cars the batteries not to last as long. Since you talk about magnetic fields, what you had mentioned was that they were there to call the people back again who are part of the New Age people. I guess the ancient Atlanteans, or. Well, you say it, and it was your words.
It's when people ask me about Cripple Creek, Colorado, in the Sangre de Cristo mountain range. Why is it such a vibrating kind of magical place? And my answer was that there is a legend that the Atlanteans and the Lemurians buried beneath the earth magnetic fields to attract, during the coming Aquarian age, those souls who were for love and peace. And in alchemy, gold is magnetic. And they've only taken out a fraction of the gold in Cripple Creek. It's called the Bowl of Gold. And the Garden of the Gods is near there, where the Indians, no one could enter the Garden of the Gods who was at war with his brother or sister. It's a magical place, and gold is magnetic. There's a great secret about gold someday, which I guess I'll try to reveal in 12th Night Secrets, which is the sequel to Goobers. But the gold is magnetic in alchemy, and the legend says they buried magnetic fields beneath the earth to attract, during the coming Aquarian age, those souls for love and peace. And that's kind of what's happening in that area in Cripple Creek. So that's why I said that. But there are grids around the earth of magnetic power points, and they do exist. And it's like you create them with your actions too, like a haunted house, like the Amityville Horror, places where many murders have occurred, electrocution, the electric chair chamber, places like that are vibrating with negative vibrations, and they keep recurring and recurring because of the law of magnetism. And then places like St. Patrick's or my little chapel in my house, with all the incense and candles and prayers and positive thoughts, you walk in and you almost levitate because you feel, it's a positive magnetic power point. You walk in St. Patrick's or any church, and you feel this peace, descend on you. And I don't care if you believe in the religion or not. It has nothing to do with that. It's the candles, the incense. the air itself, the vibrations in the air, because so many positive thoughts and actions have taken place that they have permeated the ethers with positive. And the same thing is true of negative. People shudder all over when they go to Auschwitz or any of the German concentration camps, you know, where all this evil took place.
So, yeah.
And so the law of magnetism definitely works. And you walk in a house, you feel uncomfortable, or a hotel room. You know, I've done that many times and found out someone died there, was murdered in that room. Really. You know, some guest was murdered 2 months ago, or somebody jumped out the window. I've had that happen where I feel very uncomfortable and I want to change rooms, but I don't know why. Then afterwards I ask around and find out something very negative did take place in that room. Now you can exorcise negative, you know, exorcise it away and turn it positive. You can do that to anything on earth with love, anything. Even Satan wants to be forgiven.
Fallen angel, yes.
He's a fallen angel, and he was the brother of Osiris, and he's sorry for all the evil he let loose in the world. I know that. Many gurus know that. But he doesn't know how to stop it, and the only way, and he needs to be forgiven, and then he can take his power and aim it toward good again. But he wants to be forgiven. He's lonely and frightened, and he hates himself for what he did, so he's not like everyone. He wants to be forgiven. No one is totally evil or totally black or totally white.
You just triggered an interesting thought in my head I never even thought of before, is that, you know, we think so much of the things that are going to be happening in the future as changes, you know, like utopia on Earth. It would be, what would happen if Satan decided to repent and turn around? I don't know. I don't believe in a personality Satan, but I believe in an energy, a negative energy.
Oh, there's a personality too, but several of them. That'll be in 12 Night Secrets.
Oh,
but
next book.
It's very interesting. Another word for Satan is Set. And there's a secret about the snake, which will be in 12th Night Secrets. And the word serpent in lexigram is Set repents. Serpent, Set repents, which is interesting.
All these words, since you write about lexicograms, makes me want to write everything you say down
I know,
and play with it, like
can really
exercise
spiral your
and
thoughts, you know,
yes.
very high. I like slut is lust and lust is slut, things like that.
I liked evolution, love backwards.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. But anyway, speaking of Satan, I know you want to ask me about one of the chapters in the book. I was trying to give you a lead in there.
I know, I was
Didn't
getting
pick
ready to ask you. When I was looking through it, trying to find a poem that I wanted to read.
No, a chapter that you wanted to read.
A chapter, that's right.
This
a
book
chapter.
is not a group of poems, everyone. It is not. It is a book, just like any book. I started to say like a Judith Krantz book, God forbid. It's like a, all right, Norman Mailer book, you know, but it has a beginning and a climax. Anyway, it's a book. It's not a group of poems. Okay.
I'm sorry.
You are forgiven. But anyway, now I know you're going to ask me about the chapter where I go way down in the depths of despair and call on Satan as my new God. In talking about Jesus, that when I was a child, I wondered why I couldn't call Jesus, because it seemed to me that a place as big and important as heaven ought to have a telephone number, you know. And so all through the book, there's this theme about Jesus with the unlisted telephone. You know, you can't call him on the phone in childhood and on through. So I was talking about calling on Satan as my new God. At least he doesn't have an unlisted telephone, and the devil, they say, takes care of his own. So I do this, and I don't do anything terribly naughty. I come out of it very quickly with learning a great wisdom, and I don't hurt anybody or anything with it, but I do call on Satan briefly in the midst of despair. So I said to one of my gurus, one of my higher gurus, I said, do I have a right to take my readers down into hell? And I'll never forget his answer. He said, well, it's one of the shorter routes to heaven. And then, you know, we were talking about a lot of kids today, you know, they're in hell. Obviously, this is hell. I don't mean your show. I mean the earth. But, you know, here these kids are all committing suicide, or alcoholics, drug addicts, You know, they're down there in the depths of hell. And if you don't go down there with them and show them the way out, they'll never get out. You can't sit up in the mountain and say, oh, I'm superior, you know, do as I do. But when they read that you've been through that, they go right on, you know, and they identify, and then you can show them how to come out. But you can't be above them. You have to go down there with them. But I liked his answer, should I lead my readers down into hell? And he said it's one of the shorter routes to heaven. So that made me feel. But there's a reason for that being in there.
I thought
There's
so
a
when I
reason
read
to
it.
explain to the readers that you don't believe in anything in God, in goodness, in any religion, and you're despairing and you want to die and there's nothing good, nothing to believe in. And you go down into the depths, and then there's kind of a recipe or a guide for getting out of that and coming back up again into joy. You can't have no joy without sorrow.
True.
You can't know spring without winter, things like
Hilarious.
that. So I know that a lot of people are going to say, oh my goodness, but they shouldn't mind because Sparky Schultz is Snoopy and Charlie Brown and Lucy are in the book. So you can't have a book with Charlie Brown and Lucy and Linus and Snoopy. It's an evil book, you know.
Yeah, I didn't think it was evil, but I did want to ask you about it.
No,
so
but
I
I
heard
meant,
what
you
had to
know,
say.
Satan. I'm trying to think. There was a Charlie Brown cartoon about Satan once, and I can't remember it, but it had humor. You know, if you don't have a sense of humor, forget it. Beware of a man or a woman without a sense of humor, and especially when it comes to religion. A person who cannot laugh at himself or herself or others is dangerously close to losing all wisdom, because that's why they refer to the divine sense of comedy or divine sense of humor. Did any of you know about that? Martin Scorsese's film, The Last Temptation of Christ. They were going to bomb the theaters, and the born-again Christians were parading out front. And it was so funny because they had a little cartoon in a Los Angeles paper where two little guys, like little ghost type, Casper the ghost types, were talking at a table. One of them said, did you hear about the last temptation of Christ and all this, all this publicity about it? And a little guy said, yeah, I've read about that. And he said, well, you know, they've been going to bomb the theaters and burn them down, and there's just all this talk about it. And it's I don't understand it. And the little guy said, yeah, I've heard that. And he said, well, I haven't even seen the movie. I don't know whether it's any good or not. The other little guy says, I saw the movie last week. He said, you did? You've seen it? And he said, yeah. And he said, well, tell me, did you like it? And he said, yeah, I liked it. And he said, well, what was your favorite part? He said, well, my favorite part was when Jesus started dreaming on the cross about, so Jesus had a dream that he got married and had children and a wife and a mortgage, and he finally decided he'd rather be crucified.
It's faster.
Anyway. Yeah, it is
Faster
quicker.
death.
That was a funny one.
So many people think of like authors, especially best-selling people. Well, people put you on a pedestal, or at least I think I have, and probably other people
With
here.
a briefcase behind you.
She's on a briefcase.
Yeah.
Okay. That's a different thought. But I've noticed, like, reading bits and pieces from your books and like the introductions and just some of the information that was mailed to me, that you've had a lot of like experience in your life, a lot of personal tragedies, and how do you feel that has affected your work, your life? It doesn't sound like that's it. That's the result of it. Okay.
I'm denying it, you understand, because it's too personal and intimate. So that's why I called that page I read my cop-out page. No, it's not an autobiography. It is, but it isn't. You know. Well, the point is, I'm telling the truth because people do feel it's their own story. You know, it's part of my life, part of my personal quest for truth. You know, that the reader has to go along with me and not get the answers till the end, because I didn't get the answers until, in the beginning. So they have to go step by step to get the answers to the questions that are raised in the first 75% of the book. They'll get the answers by the end. They will definitely get the answers.
Well, I'm looking forward to reading it cover to cover. I started it, and I just Like I said, with a baby, there's so
With a
many
new
things.
baby
So.
a year old, I don't, I don't see where you have time to read it all.
I don't, not much. I have one more question, and I'm going to let you talk with the audience. I would
Okay.
like to ask, I noticed in several of your books, you mention, or several times you mention not to be compensated for spiritual advice. And you include astrology, but yet you also mention that astrology is an art and a science as well as your religion. So in a sense it's spirituality, but also it's something, it's informative rather than enlightening also. I think I'm asking you this mostly because I read hands for a living. I do it mostly in an entertaining way, like I'll dress up like a gypsy and go read, but I also do private readings, more the entertainment style, because the private readings are serious, and I feel like I'm getting into, something, well, serious, something more involved, and I enjoy the lighthearted, fun side. But I was curious as where you draw a line, because that was making me feel a little uncomfortable. Do I not do the private readings anymore? Do I give them away? Do I not promote myself that way? But
Well,
I'm not asking you for personal advice. There's others I think would be
There's
interested.
nothing wrong with being lighthearted, and as I just said, there's nothing wrong with humor at all. But are you talking about taking money for the readings?
Right.
All
Doing
right,
it
well,
for a living.
I have a lot of people ask me that, and they become very upset, and I just don't have any answer for it, except the answer from the universe. All I know, for example, I think it's about 6 or 7 times in the holy works of the Bible, which you don't have to believe in. 75% of people on this earth are not Christians, so, but at least in the Western Christianity, repeatedly says you must not money must not change hands for spiritual advice on a one-to-one basis, or the person who is relaying that advice loses the gift. And I didn't make up the law.
Right.
I am not responsible for making up this law, but I do know 2 things. Jean Dixon has lost the gift. She kept charging more and more and more. Peter Herkos, before he died, lost the gift. And they both had great gifts. And this is how all churches were founded. Mormon, Catholic, Jewish, Protestant. The rabbis, the ministers, the priests are not allowed to take money for their spiritual counsel. Mm-hmm. The church takes care of them, in the parish house or whatever. Their needs are met, and they're not allowed to, obviously, okay, thank you, Father, and the priest says to you, that'll be $25, or the rabbi. They're not. All churches are founded on that principle. I didn't make it up. Now, unfortunately, with astrology, which is the mother of all religion, the mother of all science, the mother of mathematics, the mother of astronomy, not the other way around. But with astrology, we don't have churches of astrology, where they take care of their astrological priesthood or whatever. You have to earn a living in this world today, and so astrologers can't afford to follow that precept unless they do it on the side and have another job. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Because you still I won't take money for a chart, no. But now I take my earnings on my books, because putting words together at the typewriter, stringing them together and creating words on a page is a whole different thing. Whatever you're writing about, whether you're writing in cold blood like Truman Capote, whatever subject matter, it's hard work to sit at the typewriter and put the words together. That is putting something into the universe where you take back out. Mm-hmm. But to sit down on a couch and do a reading is another matter. And like I said, I didn't invent the law. And so when people turn to me, it's almost like they're angry with me because I'm the one who said you must not do this. It's not me. And but I'm only telling you my observation that you do lose the gift after a while. After a while.
I think that could be right.
You haven't
because
lost it
sometimes
yet.
you're
You still
wondering-
have some time to go.
I'm not making that much yet.
No, but after a while you lose the gift. If you and that's, as I said, what can I tell you? All churches are based on that.
I do know the difference, because when you're wondering, okay, well, I make enough tonight to pay the bills, or the
Exactly.
reading, your mind's on how many bills you have when you're going to do the reading, and if everybody's going to do it, and so forth. Or,
Well, I know when you worry about that. There have been times in my life, thanks to the great publishing profession, where my royalties have not been paid for years on end, and I need money desperately. And some of the Hollywood film stars, they would pay $1,000 a chart to me. And I've had to really fight temptation when I owe my phone bill and it's $2,000. And Terry Moore calls me, a close friend of mine, says, Cher wants a chart done, she'll pay you $1,500. And I go, oh, God. I say, no. I don't have the time, number one. It's the time, too. It's the time I don't have, But I won't take money for that. So it's very hard to resist, I grant you. It doesn't mean you're going to go to hell tomorrow. But by the way, in case you wondered, this is in the general direction of hell. In case you wanted the geographical location, you're in it. You know,
I was a little deeper
you can't
down.
go there, you're already there.
We're already here.
It's a matter of
To
getting
rise
out
above
of it, right. So
I guess what I was asking, though, was where you draw the line, because there's so many that people who aren't in, I don't know the words I want to use here, but there are people who give financial advice with the stocks. And
financial advice is a different matter.
but I feel a lot of the people who come from readings, astrology as well as their hands or tarot or whatever reading, are not only asking for spiritual advice, or maybe not even asking
We're
for
not
spiritual advice.
supposed to give financial
They want-
advice astrologically.
They
You're
want
not supposed to do that. It will boomerang right back on you with negative vibrations. You can't tell somebody how to win at the races, how to win the stock market. You cannot serve both God and mammon, as St. Francis said. Either you will hate the one and be loyal to the other, or be loyal to the one and hate the other. You cannot serve both God and mammon. Mammon meaning money. You can't do that. So spiritual matters have nothing to do with temporal financial matters. Oh, ye of little faith, why are you concerned about what shall you wear, what shall you eat? You know, seek first the kingdom of God, meaning, and I don't mean to sound like a born-again Christian or something, what that means is seek first the kingdom within. Tune into your higher self. Find out what the truth is about life, and all these things will be added unto you. And they will. You'll learn how to ordain what you want, and it'll come like that. You know, I mean, so being spiritual doesn't mean you have to live in poverty. But because you'll find out the magic trick of ordaining what you need, and it will be there. But the kingdom of God sounds like Sunday school or some churchy thing. It means the kingdom within, which is tuning into your higher self. It's like tuning into a radio station or tuning into a television station. Once you tune in, you're there. And whatever you want, you can have. You just ordain it. You don't ask for it. You ordain it. Command it. Because it's already yours as soon as you ask. But, I mean, as soon as you ordain. Ordaining is a totally different thing than praying. You can't. I mean, you know, okay, belief is good, but it doesn't make miracles. Faith is even stronger, but it doesn't make miracles. Knowing is what makes miracles. K-N-O-W, knowing. You know, that makes miracles. You don't say, please, please, please. You know, and you just ordain it.
like act like you already have it. And
Exactly. Well, as the Nazarene said repeatedly, for whatsoever thing you desire, pray as if you had already received it, and you shall surely have it.
I was there, yes. I'd forgotten that.
Right.
You are so full of information, so full of knowledge. Do you read all the time?
I'm just
or?
a little channel with things going to me.
I'm
No, I don't know. I
amazed.
just guess. But, you know, just remember that, because it is so true. For whatsoever thing you desire, pray as if you had already received it, and you will surely have it. It means you don't say please, you say thank you, because it's already happened. You just have to wait for it to materialize from the ethers into matter. And you can have whatever you want. And as the Nazarene also said repeatedly, and I don't know how he could have made it more clear, and that's why he failed in his mission, because it didn't work. He kept saying, for all things I have done, all things I have done, you can do also. Go thou, and do likewise, and more. And what did they say? Master, heal me. Master, heal me. Master. He kept saying, but all things I have done, you can do also. Go thou, and do likewise, and more. But they didn't listen. Spiritual laziness.
Now, though.
Well, you see, the whole point is the second coming. It is not a man in a robe floating down with bare feet from heaven in the clouds. The second coming is when every man and every woman recognizes that he or she is also a Messiah. That's the second coming in each heart. And in star signs, I talk about Messiah, and lexigram contains I am he. He is me, he is she is me, I am him. That's what Messiah contains. So you too are a Messiah. And when every man and every woman recognizes those lost powers, then that's the second coming in each heart. And that's what Jesus tried to teach, but they wouldn't listen, no matter how many times. be it done to you according to your faith, meaning I didn't heal you, your faith that I could healed you. Your faith in me that I could heal you healed you, not me.
They were looking without themselves
Yeah,
for someone
exactly.
for help.
When you
Help
have to
me,
look
help me.
within. And so the Aquarian age should open the third eyes of everyone until every man and woman realizes that they are gods and goddesses possessing great powers they have too long forgotten. And you can, the only thing is kind of hard sometimes because, you know, to ordain and be positive in the face of negative. And once you see it work a few times, it's much easier to do. You know, everyone falls down. Believe me, I'm the great teacher here. I fall down quite frequently, but most of the time, I know how to get back up and make it happen. And one of these days, I won't stumble anymore. I still stumble now and then. Manu, M-A-N-N-U, which is the Indian word for God. My foundation, Manu Unlimited, in Colorado, it's we have a bylaw that says, or whatever, the recognition of imperfection equals perfection. And you guys are Virgos out there, you'll understand that.
Oh, I like that.
The recognition of oh, I have another one. I'm going to get bumper stickers made, and I'm not going to make one comment about this, really, because I want you all to think, and I'm not going to state my views or anything. It has to do with my opinion of the medical profession, but also the truth about healing, the truth about illness. I dreamed it the other night, like you dream your things. I want to get bumper stickers and buttons saying, now I'm not going to comment after this, everybody just think, and then we'll go on. What's it going to say? No one has ever died of undiagnosed cancer. Think about it.
That's interesting. Yeah, that.
No one has ever died of undiagnosed cancer. Now think about that, and substitute diabetes, AIDS, anything you want.
We could talk about that for
Yeah,
a long
all
time.
night
but
and all day,
that's-
but
yes.
you want questions from the
Yes,
audience?
that's what, you're reading
Okay.
my mind. That was the next. It's like,
Well,
the
isn't that
light's
what
on
we're
you.
here for telepathy, right? It wasn't hard to do. I can see you
Do we
if
have
I
any
put my
questions
hand
out
up.
there? Hello out there, audience.
Hi, Linda.
Hi.
Hi. I have a question about electromagnetic fields. Recently in my life, I've been very drawn to, in my meditations, two places in the world. One is Los Angeles and the other is Egypt, near the pyramids. This has come to me in my meditations, and as a child with my third eye wide open, I spent many, many happy and warm and loving times in Egypt. And I was wondering if you could comment on those two particular spots on the earth and why I feel just wonderful vibrations when I go there.
What is your first name?
Roya.
Roya.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you see, when you're attracted, or you feel an attraction toward a geographical location, it's always because of karma, because of past incarnations. When you feel a turnoff, like, ugh, it's because you had negative experience in that area in a former life. But there's a close connection between California and Egypt, and well, it's written about in Goobers, because many of the high priests and priestesses of Egypt who did not warn of the cataclysm, Egypt connected with the Atlantean cataclysm in time, have been reincarnated and drawn toward California to be given an opportunity to warn them in time, this time. And there's a close connection with California and Egypt. First of all, well, we don't have time to go into that. But there is a close connection, and I feel also drawn toward those places. I'll be going to Egypt soon, but then again, south of the border, Mexico, Spain, Brazil, South America. I have a negative. I pull back. No, I don't want to go there. It was some evil done to me or by me in that area. So I have that about Spanish or south of the border. The cooking, the music, the dialect, the language, the terrain. I draw back from it, but I don't have any reason, there's nothing wrong with it, but I'm not pulled magnetically, but I am pulled to England, Scotland, Wales, Ireland, and Egypt, and California is closely connected, so you can be sure of that. It's wonderful that you have those memories as a child, and what you have to do is become a child again. Never grow up, never grow up. Peter Pan had the right idea. Okay? Because children make miracles for a very simple reason. They believe in them. You know, they don't have any doubt. The slightest seed of doubt, if you have built an image of something you want, like a miracle, and you say it's like white grains of sand, and one little gray seed gets in of doubt, and the whole pyramid falls down. You have to start building it again. I'll quote a line from Goobers, which it annoys me because every time I have a question, you know that thing where you open the Bible and put your finger down on a page? Every time I have a question, I open Goobers, you know, and I'll put my finger down. Well, I had the manuscript, you know, put my finger down with my eyes closed. And inevitably, and I get so angry with myself because inevitably, I've never had it fail. I'll open up and my finger goes right down on the same line every time. And it's a line which is printed in boldface, real heavy black letters, and it says, I have tried everything, everything, everything. I heard myself angrily shout. Then came the faintest whisper, everything but the absence of the last teeny tiny sliver of doubt. And I get so angry. I said, why not tell myself this, you know? But that's a powerful thing. You should read that over and over. And that's true. I've tried everything, everything, everything. I heard myself angrily shout. Then came the faintest whisper, everything but the absence of the last teeny tiny sliver of doubt. People don't realize how important that is.
Another question.
Yes.
Hello, Linda.
Hi.
My question, I really don't know how to word it properly, but perhaps you'll understand what I'm trying to express. How did you decide in what spiritual direction to go? My spiritualness is so different than the regular religions. And I go to workshops and seminars, and I get a little bit here and a little bit there, but I still have not determined what direction to go in. How did you finally decide what you really wanted to do spiritually?
Well, always the key, always, inevitably, every time, is to tune into your higher self, and your higher self will not mislead you. Once you've tuned in to your higher self, and there are little exercises you can do in star signs to do that, you know, when you lose something or forget something, and once you've established that communication with your own the higher angel of yourself, and there are illustrations of that in Goobers, you know, illustrations, drawings. Then you read whatever you have a feeling about intuitively. Read everything you can, you know, and then you'll lock in. You know, you'll read and you reject. Then you'll read something and you'll hold it. And you read something else and reject. I've read a lot of things I rejected as soon as I read them because the little voice says, And then, you know what I mean? But your higher self has all wisdom. And once you tune in, and the drawings make it pretty easy, I think. And also in star signs, there are drawings like that, where once you tune in, she will never guide you. She is the same sex as you are, but the higher angel of yourself will never guide you wrong. And you can call it intuition, you can call it you can call it whatever you want, but you'll be magnetized toward it, and inevitably you will be. That's the way to do it.
Does anyone else out there have a question? I have several. Okay.
I was just curious what the significance of the title of your book is.
Goobers? Oh, yeah. Well, you'd have to read the book, I think, to understand that. Okay. In fact, I know you have to read the book to understand it. The book will unfold that. By the time you get to part 2, you'll know why. It isn't anything I can answer in a couple of sentences. So it's part of the storyline, part of the plot, part of the experiences.
Randy?
Hi, Linda. Welcome to Cincinnati.
Thank you.
You mentioned in your book Star Signs about living in the same house that Tesla used to live in. I was wondering if you feel that sometime in the near future we may have access to the technology that he tried to bring about and have the free energy and the less damaging to the environment energy sources.
Yeah, I think it's being channeled now through some people who are alive, who are living, some engineers and scientists. you know, who are working on things, and they're close to it now. All of that can be channeled from other astral planes into the mind's channeling again, you know, of individuals now. And the need for it is so great that even though J.P. Morgan messed up by, you know, stopping, nevertheless it can come back again. The same ideas. You know, whatever's happening now with Gorbachev, pray for Gorbachev every night, please. Man is very special, very special person, and I have close, personal, intimate reasons for knowing that. But Gorbachev, you know, look what's happening. It's the Aquarian age. This change is coming, and it's coming in a positive sense all over the place. And now even the dodo birds in Washington, the White House, know that we have 10 years to reverse it on the, you know, in the environment. If we don't reverse it within the next decade, it's too late. And even they are getting, you know, frightened. And so when those dodos get frightened, and I think everybody is, even school children now in grade school are marching for the trees and the rainforest and all this. So finally, people are opening their eyes. It's the Aquarian age, which means change at the last minute. It looks like it's headed toward disaster, but it'll turn around. And I think now everybody realizes that we only have 10 years. And they're, you know, as I say, even those awful people, you know, the AEC, Atomic Energy Commission, all those idiots. Senator Patrick Moynihan was talking the other day about, how is it, what do we spend? I think we spend $30 billion or something a year on defense and nuclear. He said, $5 billion is plenty. We don't need $30 billion. You know, there are ways to save the trees. There are ways to turn it around if they start quickly enough. And it's happening. It was inevitable that people's minds open. But it's getting pretty dangerously close, really.
I think we have time for one more question, maybe
Okay.
two.
Hello, Linda. My name is Edward, and welcome to Cincinnati, the land of the fairies.
help with
Thank
the
you,
lights.
My
Edward.
question
The
is in
land of the what?
reference-
The fairies, and he helped with the lights, too.
Oh, yes. What kind of, is it little fairies and like on the book?
Yes.
Druids
Exactly.
and leprechauns?
Yes.
My question is in reference to astrology. I would like to know, is there a real significant connection between the geocentric and heliocentric? In other words, does one apply more to mundane affairs and one more spiritually?
Geocentric and heliocentric. The geocentric is the Earth is the center. The heliocentric is the sun is the center. Well, you know, in astrology, it has to be, the Earth has to be the center because you're relating them to the Earth as a planet. But they both are valid. But as you say, if you're trying to split them into mundane material matters and spiritual, would be the heliocentric, which would be the spiritual world center, and Earth would be the geocentric, or the Earth would be the material matter. Okay.
Thank you all. I have one more question, not so much from the audience, but our camera person here, who probably behind the camera, so I don't know if we can get her on, but she asked me to ask you, she has read your book since she was a teenager, every single one of them, and has really followed your work. She brought her book in and asked me if I'd ask you to autograph it, but she also asked, she's noticed that in your work, that each time you've advanced even more in saying that that we all have the tools within ourselves. We have what? The power is within us. Am I saying that right, Joni? Okay. And she wanted to comment about that. Was there a question with that, Joni? Is it that you just wanted to comment on that?
An observation.
An observation. And is that kind of, she kind
Everything
of
that you're
picked it up
looking
right?
for outside is within.
You did mention that during the talk,
And
too.
those phrases like the kingdom of God, seek ye first the kingdom of God, you're just talking about first look within yourself, dear higher self, because you have all power. Everyone has power.
Okay, good. I just wanted to say that Star Signs is a book of tools, is the way I looked at it.
Thank you. Yes, I feel that's sort of what it was meant to be.
Oh,
A little ways to discover and reactivate that power.
Thank you so much for being here.
Well, you're welcome.
Both of your hands. And,
You're welcome.
well,
And I love being here. And I
And-
love your stars and your moon and the sun and all the little planets around us. You've done a beautiful job with setting here. It has great vibes.
Thank you.
And you have great vibes.
Well, thank you too.
And your husband is a great lighting man.
Here is back there behind the stage. Well, thank you everybody for joining us today, and tune in. Following this, we're going to tape another show with her talking more about astrology, and that'll be the show that follows this one, so you'll have to pay attention to your TV guide and find out when we're on, or we'll send flyers around, let you know. So thank you. Would you sign this for me? Would you sign this for me? Wherever you feel it's best.